When I saw my baby, I couldn't believe that he was mine. He was just so beautiful, healthy, head full of hair. He just looked at me, just staring up at me, and I'm looking at him with so much love. Once the day came that he had to go and the doctors told me time was up, that's when all my emotions hit me at once. I begged the doctors to please just let me get one more day in the hospital because I'm not ready to go back to prison. My mother lost custody of me when I was born. So I was in and out of foster care from birth. I was sexually and physically abused. Both of my parents were deceased by the time I was 12 years old. As I grew up, I had trouble finding myself and learning my identity. So I started to get into drugs to relieve the pain from what I experienced as a child. I moved around and I ended up in Hawaii and I started to get my life back in order. And I went to a party and someone put something in my drink and I was sexually assaulted then. From that moment, I went back downhill and started using drugs again. And I was arrested and pregnant with my first child. During my incarceration, I felt completely lost and alone. Just being pregnant is a very emotional process. I tried to keep myself from thinking negatively because I also had to think of my baby as well and what I was allowing him to feel. But it was extremely hard because I didn't know where my son was gonna go, who was gonna have him, if he was gonna experience the same abuse or abandonment that I felt. One day I was walking around the unit and my water broke and I didn't even realize it. One of the other women that I was incarcerated told me that I did. And the officers called the ambulance and they rushed me to the hospital. I knew that if I gave birth naturally, that I can only stay with my baby for 1 day. And if I had a C-section, I could stay with him for 3 days. So I asked the doctor, could I get a C-section? And he said yes, and I was able to stay with my baby for 3 days. The 3 days being with him, I smelled him, I hugged him, I changed his diaper. I just tried to enjoy every minute that I had with him so I could never forget it. Once the day came that he had to go and the doctors told me time was up, that's when all my emotions hit me at once and I literally just went into the darkest place that I have ever been in my life. I started crying. I was thinking, is he gonna be safe? Did I make the right decision? I was feeling regret and shame about the decisions that I made and being in prison. I didn't know if I would ever see him again, talk to him again. I remember screaming, I want my baby back. I want my baby back. I felt like my life was over. I wanted to die. The thought of everything that I had gone through just caused me to not want to feel that anymore. I didn't have, let me see. I tried to take my life numerous times. The last time I tried to commit suicide, I took 40 pills. They didn't take me to suicide watch. They didn't give me any counseling or anything like that. But I was walking around and this woman wanted to talk to me. She didn't know me, I didn't know her. We just ended up having a conversation. And she told me, she said, there's greatness in you and God has big plans for your life. I can see it in you. And I started to cry because I felt like God was speaking to me and that I had a purpose in life. And from that day on, I told myself, I'm gonna fight, I'm gonna do the best that I can, I'm gonna get back to my child, and I will be successful. After that, I started to get into my writing. I started to write poetry, write my feelings down to release those feelings that I was suppressing on paper. My son is like the air to me. Without him, I ain't breathing right. Baby, you my heart, and without you here, it ain't beating right. At times I wanna quit, but you the reason why I need to fight. Then the COVID lockdown happened, and we were locked down in our cells for 24 hours a day. So I begged the officer, could he please just let me get a book? And I ran to the library, grabbed the first book I saw, and went back into my room, and it was Susan Burton's Becoming Miss Burton. She went through a lot of the same things that I went through, with abuse, with addiction, with trauma, and prison. And she turned her life around and created homes for women who were formerly incarcerated and their children. I wrote her a letter and received the letter back, and she accepted me into her program. Coming to a new way of life has been such an amazing experience. The staff, Susan Burton, all have similar walks of life as us residents. They connected me with the family reunification team, and now the family reunification team is helping me get custody of my son back. They're feeding into me and teaching me that I am valuable. I deserve to be in my son's life. I am a good person. And I will teach him about the mistakes that I made and how not to go down that road. Since my son has been born, I have completely turned my life around. I've went to parenting classes. I've graduated from drug treatment program. I received my GED, and I've come to a program that is helping me stay on the right track. I have a job, and I have stayed completely out of trouble. If I were to get custody of my son, I would talk to him with love. I'll remind him, you're valuable, you're smart, you can do it. I would teach him about the system and how to make better choices and how to go after his dream. I would dance with my son. I would sing with my son. I would tell him I love him as many times throughout the day. I would kiss him goodnight, read him a story. I would sing to him. I would lay with him in the bed and just hug him and just remind him that I'm not going anywhere. If we were all given the opportunity that a new way of life provides for women who were formerly incarcerated and getting their children back, we will all shine. We are all diamonds. We have dirt on us. We just need help cleaning it up so we can shine brighter.